What did I read on the thermometer before I left? 105 is the heat index.
Oh,
Or 94 with 100.
Right.
excuse me.
Is there gonna be executive session?
Yes. Are we good to go?
Yes.
I'm going to call the meeting.
Yeah.
Hi, Phil. Hi, Jim.
Hi, Greg.
Hi, Greg.
Guys.
Hi,
Speaking of.
Ann. Hi, Muffy. Sounds Muffy. I'll take care of it. I'm going to call the meeting to order. It is 7:00 on July the 1st. As we near the 250th and the celebration on July 4th, we look forward to it. I have, in calling the meeting to order, I'm in need of adding 2 items to the agenda under permit review. One, a application from Henry Beck that inadvertently kind of fell through the cracks, and the other, a application to Mark Walter for use of his boat on his parents' property, Mr. John Lynch. So do I have a motion that we will accept those 2 changes to permit review? And do I have a second? Bob motions, second Mike Scalise. Thank you very much. We have the minutes of the last meeting, which was June 3rd, with attachments. And I'd like to ask for a motion, if no discussion is needed, to accept the minutes of June 3rd. Muffy. There was one change, and the typo is.
On the first page, Joshua Hoffman should be Joshua Hoffman.
Josh, should be Joshua. Okay, we got a U. And you will make that change. Are there any other additions, deletions, edits to the minutes? If not, do I hear a motion to accept the minutes of June 3rd? Thank you, Phyllis. Second, Muffy. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No abstentions. We're all together. Awesome. We move on. Thank you very much. Let me get to communications, and I know Christina Hahn is representing the Recreation Department. She was able to provide me with an update, so I'll start the communications with the Sake of the Lake program. Of course, we all know that's for non-motorized boats on the lake, and the ability to do the best we can to ensure that boats, non-motorized boats, are self-inspected. Christina, thank you. She provided me with this update. We have 58 registered residents of the town, and 270 stickers have been passed out. So I think that's a relatively good sign for us in terms of introducing this program, getting the communications out, etc. That said, as we move forward, I would like to suggest that we work with the Marine Patrol, and Jeff, you're our Marine Patrol liaison. If they can continue to educate and continue to introduce the program, I think we can even make it more robust and get more people involved in terms of protecting the lake. Okay. Any other thoughts or discussions relative to Sake of the Lake?
Is this mandatory? Have those stickers on the kayak?
According to the town ordinance, it would be. We're introducing it this year in a fashion to educate, and I think at some point we will get there.
Well, right now it's not. The intent is that it will.
Well, per the ordinance, it is, but we're introducing it in a way that we want to educate and influence people versus penalize people at this point in
So
time.
does that,
Correct?
yeah, does that mean Marine Patrol is not gonna stop people if they don't have a sticker on the lake?
No, what we're asking the Marine Patrol to do, and we had a meeting with Brian Ald, myself, Mark, Jeff and Bob, we are asking Marine Patrol to be more of an ambassador, to introduce the program, to provide materials for the program, and then to have those people step up and secure them at the recreational department.
And so the people that will have to go to the rec department or to the town to get the stickers?
It's the
Rec department.
rec department. Christina, correct me if I'm wrong. It's the rec department that you apply for those stickers.
Rec department.
Yes, it's at the rec department.
Thank you.
And there's no cost. No.
Nothing.
Hey, why not? Is it just-
Okay, if there aren't any other discussion, then thank you for that input. Frank, I'm going to turn it over to you. The Town of Columbia Emergency Management Plan. You had an update and communication on that.
Right, rapid response plan. So this is what we had contracted with PRC, our lake consultant, and Tracy worked on that for us. We got it in this last fiscal year. That's the deliverable. Town you, Mark, and to integrate that into the town's overall emergency plan. So I think that's sort of the completion of the special project. I think we still have a lot more work to do, even from the initial conversations that we've had with us. And I think it would be good to advance this as a special committee to continue the discussion. 4 things I was thinking that we would probably want to follow up on. If you're thinking about joining, just think about some of these topics or others that you want to get involved in. One is working with the town, with farm, to integrate this with the town's overall plan and make sure that we have a streamlined process for understanding what that means. 1-page flow chart that says, who are the key decision makers, where are the decision points, how's the communication flow. So it should be something that we all feel very comfortable. If we're in an emergency situation, we need to fast, feel like the decisions are already made, we just follow the chart. So that's sort of summarizing. I want to include this in our education materials to make sure we're updating our what we're putting out there for the community, because they're going to be our eyes and ears on this. So I'll just review that in the coming year. I was thinking about Boost Patrol and their effectiveness. I'd love to see a group of us consider doing regular surveys, working with our consultant, make sure that during certain times of the years when it's more prominent that we at risk, depending on invasive species, that we're out there patrolling it. And then maybe even that group will go through some exercises, right? One of the drills we did come up with some. How effective are we? And how quickly can we get that done? The 4th thing is for agendas for the off season is the LMAC to look at some topics of what are the remedies if something were to occur? How do you address that? How comfortable are we with remedies that may include chemical treatments, herbicides, proper sulfates, and things like that. So we can have these discussions, maybe pre-wire it so that when that time happens, it's possible. So those are some of the things why I'm proposing that we should have a subcommittee look at this, continued on. So I move it to you as chair.
All excellent objectives in terms of how do we best move forward. The approach probably should be a subcommittee. Frank has just very well outlined those objectives in terms of integration with the town, streamlining communication, educational materials, some sort of a fire prevention versus firefight approach to testing. And I think that the other thing is we do have to start to talk about, are we ready for remedies? If we early detect, how do we rapidly respond to either invasive species or phosphorus? So with that said, is anyone interested understanding these objectives and getting together as a subcommittee to be able to put these types of elements in place to bring back to LMAC? And one of the suggestions I appreciated that Frank just said is, in the winter, there might not be a lot of stuff going on. But in the winter, that may be the time where we should really be thinking forward and brainstorming about these things. So a show of hands and or volunteer.
I had signed up. I had signed up to be on the help with this project and didn't do anything. I forgot I raised my hand for it, so, and I did read the document pretty closely that you circulated.
That would be great. I think a key part of this is communication from the community. I think their official role to, so really important factor.
Excellent. So Muffy, thank you for volunteering. Anyone else? I'm always available if you need me. I'm retired now.
Congratulations, I heard that at the park.
But I'm obviously always available to help out. There may be bits and pieces of this where we can reach out to other LMAC members as needed and maybe ask for your input, based on things that we have learned from other opportunities, as Frank was suggesting, Dragon from the Boost Patrol. as an example. Okay. Right now, we'll leave it at that, those three, and then we'll move forward and see as needed. Thank you, Frank, very much. I really look forward to getting some of this on paper and ready to go in case anything ever happens. We'll be better prepared. Muffy, I know on behalf of the CLA, you met with the UConn PhD candidate who's studying the lake for certain things. Do you want to give a brief summary? If you see someone on the lake collecting plants or something?
Yes, well, Mendelson is a doctoral candidate at UConn. She reached out, I don't know, a month or two ago I don't remember how we made the connection. She actually is living in town. She's renting up at the top of the Lake Road across the street there on 87. She's lovely. The reason for meeting was she wanted to volunteer to help the CLA. But as part of her doctoral program, she's studying invasive species and non-invasive species. And I don't have it top of mind, but she is doing some, and I think Mark, you were made aware of this, she's doing some sampling, like, at certain times, and it may have already taken place.
I caught her, I think it was once last year. And she said, "Oh, I'm doing this," and that's how we kind of connected with her. But I was just walking down the street and I saw someone placing something in the lake, which I froze walking the dogs. And she admitted, "I took this out of the lake the other day. I'm just replacing it. It was sediment and shells."
Yeah.
It was cute. So that's how we kind of connected. And yeah, she's lovely. She has our annual report, which has all the information on plants and our plant mapping. And she's going to follow up with us as she proceeds with this project and provide us with an overview. So.
And completely independently of that, Mary and I attended, Frank was well aware of this, the ribbon cutting for the new plant identification center on the UConn campus, which presumably would be the source of any testing she might be doing. So we've seen the facility, and I'd like to, through Ellie, see if we can create some kind of partnership with that part of the UConn campus and maybe, tap into some of those resources.
I you're not ago reached out kind of on the same topic to the heads of the environmental studies program, see what they have. And I ended up, believe it or not, back at Bent River Grill, a bartender named Randy. You guys ever go there? She's got.
I probably met him the other night. No.
Yeah.
She has a PhD in environmental studies. And we're willing to help out too, but we were so entrenched with the TRC stuff, that, this might be a good opening to bring some other people in to take a look at that.
And get some free help.
Yeah.
Right?
Hopefully. I think Frank could facilitate some of this, obviously, with his work at UConn. So, but food for thought.
Yeah, there's so many resources there, both on the science side, but also on the policy side. Communication and, private meetings. So,
Terrific. Good communications. Thank you. Any other LMAC member communications? Mike? Okay.
So you may or may not know this, but the state of Connecticut has a new law this year for unregistered vessels. They have a sticker now. It's called a if found contact sticker. So you're required to have your name and address and phone number, with name and two phone numbers. And the sticker, you can get these stickers from the state for free. But it doesn't have to be a sticker. It could be a tag. It could be, you could write it on the side of your kayak, anything to identify a contact.
And it's for unregistered
Yes.
watercraft.
That don't require registration.
Okay. Do we have a resource at the town where we can get these things?
There's a website here that you can
Ah,
send for these stickers, however many you need.
And that's
I can,
That'll be at least 270.
sure.
It's a fine-
Well, we gave 270 stickers out, they'll save.
Yeah, I think last year, I think it happened last year, there was a kayak floating around the lake, and the
Yes.
fire department responded. And
Yeah.
also
Yes,
it's
we
a
did.
big deal, yeah. So that's happened. Good.
Yeah, you could almost add to that, for the sake of the lake sticker, contact on the bottom of it.
Just put it on the bottom.
Write your name,
Yeah.
Sharpie, you know.
as we move forward annual. Somehow combine it.
The Coast Guard should bring there along the shore.
Excuse me, Bob?
The Coast Guard is encouraging these stickers along the shore.
Ah.
And there's something they published where if they find a kayak with nobody in it, and they send a ship in, okay, that costs $5,000. If they send a helicopter, that's $25,000. They say, I mean, just because they have to respond, they have to check it out. So they spend a lot of time trying to figure out who it belongs to.
Understood. What?
Frank and I had a little tiny sidebar on that, because the Safe Lake stickers are known. Right?
Not this year. They're not numbered. Yeah, we did not number them. Okay.
And
Something to consider for the future if there's, pros for it.
that requires a little
Excuse me.
more administration to, one more thing for the rec department to do.
Did you have?
Would you like me to start writing last names on the for the sake of the lake stickers?
Not at this time. Let's take that on in terms of what can we do better and learn from
Okay.
this program this year and then see what we can do better for next year. That's what I would suggest.
I think it's more of a contact phone number than name anyway.
Yeah,
It's on the sticker, but they want to be able to call you.
but this is for any waterway in Connecticut, not just coastal.
Right.
Okay. All right. So it's a new regulation, state regulation.
It's not, right, new regulation, but not a new request.
Okay. Other?
Yeah, I don't know if this is the right place to talk about the ordinances that, had issues with last week.
We'll reserve that probably for the executive session. Okay, great. Thank you though. No guest, audience of citizens. Welcome, Sharon, David, Mike. Please, if you have any thoughts, comments, additions, deletions.
Obviously, you know why I am here.
Well, please introduce yourself, address me with whatever questions or thoughts or comments you have,
Address.
and your address.
Karen Ladd, I live at 186 Route 87. I am a lifelong resident of Columbia Lake. season. The reason I'm here is the water level. Anxious to know what happened this year and what we do that doesn't happen again, because obviously nobody is happy with this, particularly this year. And that's the reason I'm here.
It's a good reason, and you're bridging to unfinished business. We'll get there, Sharon, because
You know,
I think we all recognize that.
Yep.
We need that discussion. And we're all frustrated. So thank you, Sharon. Dave, Mike,
Just here to observe, participate if possible. Thank you.
terrific. Audience of citizens is your participation. Anything?
Just Mike Nazzo here, 19 Woodland Terrace, just here to say hello and happy Independence Day.
Terrific. Thanks. Good to have you both, or all of you. Thank you. Let's move to unfinished business. I'm sorry.
Judy Preston.
Judy, I'm sorry. How could I miss you? Anything, Judy? You're muted. You have to unmute yourself.
Sorry, just me tagging along again, staying abreast of what's going on with the lake and seeing where we can continue to have bridges between CLA, LMAC, and the community.
Terrific. Judy, your address?
I'm sorry, 5 Lakewoods Lane.
Awesome. Thank you, Judy.
Mm-hmm.
See Lake Woods? What'd you see? Lake what?
Lakewood Lane.
Lakewood. Lake.
She saw her sleepy.
Okay.
So
It
let's move.
actually has an S on it, Lakewoods.
Oh, all right.
Okay.
Let's move to unfinished business. There are 2 items that we can get to, and there's information provided in the preparation packet. One is related to the Marine Patrol and the 2026 role related to boat inspections at the town launch. I'd like to give some background to this and have everyone turn to what actually turned out to be the final copy. It's in red, 6/17/25. I inadvertently sent the changes and not the final copy, but with what we have here, we can have the discussion. What has come up and did come up at the meeting that Bob, Jeff, myself, Brian, Mark, and Jake Plitt had with Christina is in regards to the town ordinance now done last June and the regulations. So if you turn to the regulations pursuant to the ordinance regarding launch of watercraft onto Columbia Lake, and if you go to page 3, horsepower inspection, our town ordinance and our inspection regulations now specify that horsepower is to be measured by the original engine manufacturer's documentation, including the engine serial number, typically found on the engine block or the hull identification number. As listed, horsepower listed on Connecticut registration for a motorboat shall not be relied on. There have been some instances that have come up and in regards to that, and we have not, and I'm not sure what LMAC's advice would be to the BOS, who obviously would mediate that then to the town administrator, the rec department, and the Marine Patrol. What is the actual role? Because we are collecting ESNs, but there are opportunities perhaps at times when there might be a question of a horsepower being overpower. And there's no real protocol at the moment in terms of who does what in the Marine Patrol or rec department, presumably, to be able to check engine serial numbers and check someone's horsepower. So I'm putting it out on the table in terms of what is LMAC's thoughts related to what we agreed to and the Board of Selectmen agreed to last June of 2025, and are there recommendations as to how to proceed if there is a question? So I will open for discussion to gain any feedback prior to any thoughts of a motion. Mike?
So horsepower is not always on the tag, the engine tag. For instance, jet skis and jet boats.
Okay.
You won't find horsepower anywhere on that engine block. They're rated in CCs. And the original horsepower from the manufacturer has to be, I don't know how you get that. You have to go look, you have to invest because it's not easily found. Had two instances that I had reported back in 2003, two particular boats. I'm not going to get into which boats they are, but they're two jet boats. And both of them, I have the manufacturer's brochure on those boats, and they're 155 horsepower. I think that you asked for some suggestions of what we could do for protocol. I think if you can't find the horsepower on any boat, not just jet boat or jet ski, if you can't find the horsepower and the registration says it's within the ordinance, you can let them in the water, but maybe advise them that this has to be investigated since we could not find the horsepower listed on this engine. And somebody has to investigate. Who that will be, I don't know.
You're saying the registration says
Yes.
150 as opposed to the.
Correct.
No, the registration doesn't say anything.
No,
No. Both doesn't say anything. So the registration does.
Right.
All registrations have. a horsepower.
Connecticut registration.
It might be rounded up, rounded down, I think is, but they do say that the registration does say something.
Okay, in response to that, I would not let anyone sponsor on the lake, sort of argument.
Well,
But if the registration is stating that it's legal and there's
The
no other
registration
way
is legal,
to
then you
do
have
it,
to.
you can't just say, hey,
That's what
I think
we're saying.
I think that it's not legal, so I'm not gonna put down.
right, because you don't know,
Right, you can't.
right? You don't. But if you think that it needs to be investigated,
In the past, when I was involved in the control of all the manufacturer of CD, was PwC, we asked them what level. A lot of them are made in Canada, a lot of them are colored in kilowatts. So I used to hand out formula to all the new controllers, for kilowatts. And 1 kilowatt equals 1 horsepower. Do the math, figure it out. So the horsepower comes out like normal.
Well, Marine Patrol is there all the time, right? So you're
Already good for the record on it too.
Right, but
It's not that, just
trying to make it a little.
and that would be part of the investigating,
Yeah, right, yeah.
you know, that,
If the horsepower says, if the registration says that horsepower.
Yeah.
It's pretty hard. You cannot put it on the lake because the legal registration of the state of Connecticut is saying they make the horsepower.
but if you can't find that horsepower on the engine,
Exactly. I hear what
then
you're
it has to be investigated.
Yes, yes.
So, can I say something here?
Sorry.
Who's gonna do the investigation?
That's
Okay, because it's not gonna be LMAC. LMAC is an advisory board only.
Absolutely.
And for the rec department to be able to take on this type of investigation, okay, it's outside their job scope. Okay, and for Marine Patrol to do it, you're paying these guys at a minimum wage to begin with, and you are getting a steal for the experience that they bring to this town. It's unfair to have them conduct investigations. So the question goes back to who's going to do this investigation and what is the scope of it? And the final thing is, if you do find something with the state of Connecticut registration, will you be a complainant to the state police for a fraudulent second for a public document, which is a Class B felony? Will you go after those residents? Okay, because it's going to be an all or nothing, because now you're dealing with a state document. Do we go by what is on the registration for DMV, or do we go digging into people's engines?
We're jumping ahead. You look at it.
No, we're not jumping.
Yes.
No, we're not jumping ahead, because you need to look at the whole picture.
Excuse me.
You need to look at the big picture.
Excuse me. One conversation at a time. Jeff, please finish, and Jim, you're next.
My
Let's
point
be
is,
civil.
my point is that before we start, giving suggestions here, we need to look at the big picture. And that is the big picture. Okay, you either follow through with it completely or you don't at all. It can't be an all or nothing. That is my point.
Would that include then any advice to the Board of Selectmen would also include a legal review as to what and who can?
Yeah, because that's going to open up the door to a fraud.
At all the points, okay, that need to be investigated. Jim?
It might not even be. We should decide how we're gonna handle it first. And if we decide that we go by the state and we wanna investigate, then we go on to the phase 2 and decide who is gonna actually do the investigation. But if the committee, if we're voted, the vote comes out that you absolutely just let them on and that's it, then so be it. That's the way it was voted. You know what I mean? And then it's a selectmen's decision. But let's start off with knowing how the whole board thinks about, do we do the math right there at the ramp, or do we follow the state approved horsepower registration that is handed to us? And personally, I don't think we can go against a state document, because it's going to be a pretty hard case and a very exhaustive investigation to prove that the state document is wrong.
Thank you. Greg, then Phyllis.
So, I hear exactly what you're saying. My thought is, we had volunteered, Mike and I, last year to assist with this. The beginning part of taking the data from the applicant to get the vote in the water, then we get the information on the motor, and then we could, as an LMAC, just advise the selectmen, this is what we found. Let them decide whether they want to pull the boat out the water or not. Leave it at that. If the selectmen want to pursue legal, that's not all we're trying to do, is make sure people are legit on the water. And if they're not, then we would recommend to the selectmen that people off the severity and seriousness of someone registration is real serious, but that's not all. But if you think that we could just at least do the initial research, follow up to report to selectmen, hey, this is what we found with this questionable vote, they're good or they're not, here's the data. That's as far as I would go.
Can I ask a question? Well, it's specific to what he said. Okay.
Phyllis and Muffy.
I should have said, and you let Jeff respond.
Oh.
No, people wait. Yeah.
Let's be civil. Here we go.
My concern is if somebody legitimately shows up at the boat launch and they have a registration, what are we gonna say to them? We don't like your registration?
No, you can't, the ordinance says we have to look for the horsepower on the engine block. Now, on outboard, it's pretty easy. There's a tag on the back, and I think most of them have horsepower embedded in the serial number. But inboard, outboard engines, I mean, you got to lift the cover. It's a little bit of a pain. You got to look around, and you got to find the tag. There's like 3 or 4 different tags. You got to find the right tag, and they take a picture of that tag, and hopefully it has the horsepower in it. On the 2 pictures I saw that were taken at the dock, neither one of them had horsepower. So again, they take the picture, they identify it, if they can't find the horsepower, that boat needs to be investigated. Doesn't matter what the registration says. It needs to be investigated.
My question to it is, are you holding up an individual from putting their boat in the lake?
Well-
Who's doing that?
My suggestion would be if the registration says it's 130 horsepower, you can't find the horsepower anywhere on that engine block, you let them know and investigate.
Yeah.
If it proves that this is a 155 horsepower motor, you get them out of the lake. If they refuse to get them out of the lake, well, like Jeff said, that's a fraudulent thing to change your horsepower on that registration. So that would be my suggestion. I'm sure everybody has an idea.
My question is, who's actually looking at that? Is it Marine Patrol that's looking at it, or is it the rec department that's looking at when you're putting your boat in? Okay.
It's either, it is both. When Marine Patrol is not on patrol, Christina and Jake do it.
Okay. So, okay, that answers my question. Thank you.
Muffy.
I understand that's what we wrote. But I did think what Jeff said was pretty important, which is if we go down that rabbit hole and we doubt that the horsepower in the registration is actually not the correct registration, that's a very deep rabbit hole, according to what Jeff has said. And frankly, we're a little town with a little lake. Most of the people on it have boats that are appropriately horsepowered. I don't think we should personally go down that rabbit hole. I think if somebody has on their register, frankly, I think 150, 155 is a rounding error. So within the margin of error, if you did the calculation, I would guess or close to it. So I wouldn't make a big fuss about that. But personally, I'm only speaking for myself, I would rely on what's on the registration, even though it explicitly says here we shouldn't rely on it. I think to not rely on it and start to investigate, because I also agree with Bob, when you let somebody on, that's it, forget getting them off. So if we really think this is important and we doubt that the horsepower meets our limits, we shouldn't let them on, and we should investigate. But then where do we end up if we're questioning, basically a fraudulent registration? We're not resourced to do that. We're not even resourced to do the investigation. Sounds of it. And Greg, I don't think that's anything LMAC ought to be doing.
Well, everybody's going for time cycles and volunteering to help people.
No, I understand.
Right. And if that's just so few votes, it's not that big a deal, and if you, I appreciate I'm talking out of time. The rounding area, if it's a rounding error, I don't agree with that, because how big is the round? It's really 140, shouldn't be 150, but then 155, and then maybe 160. I just think we got did all this work for these regulations that we to be reasonable about it. I mean, I want to be curious to hear what Jeff has to say, but it was just for us, it would just be notify the homeowner that or the boat owner that this is what we're seeing. Give them a chance to say, hey, no, this is what the marina said or whatever, and then we just hand it to the selectmen. From a legal, going to the legal, I don't see the need to do that.
Yeah, it wasn't quite finished. It was to finish my thought. I believe, I don't know this absolutely to be the case, but I believe one of the boats in question has been on this lake for several years and has been sold and is still on the lake. So to tell whoever that is now that they can't launch the boat, I think is unpopular.
And let's not name names.
I'm not. I don't
want to personalize this. Let's.
No.
Yeah. And
Yes. And even, how can the state determine what horsepower they put on the registration?
You tell
Say, Mike, again?
them, you tell them,
100,000.
when you register and you fill out your registration, it's blank, you fill in the space.
I will agree with Mike. We had an incident and the Connecticut registration was incorrect. And so when I was at the DMV, I asked, doing something else, and they said, you must put your horsepower, that's the horsepower of that engine on, not anything that's been modified. It is a state regulation, which Jeff has said, that you have to put on the correct horsepower.
And if you don't, you have all kinds of legal issues as far as insurance. Insurance isn't gonna cover if there's an accident. There's all kinds of stuff that's gonna happen to you if you lie. And that's not to say people don't lie, but not the majority.
Well, I anticipated a very robust discussion, and
I really think we should trust the state. They gave the registration, they put the number.
No, you didn't.
Yeah.
the applicant does.
If I put a new motor on my boat, say put an 80 horse on my boat, I have to go to the state and say, hey, I now have 80 horse on my boat.
Yeah.
When you put a new motor on board, and board's different because you don't replace them all. So it's really not the state doing any checking, verifying or anything. It's not.
Unless they're requesting.
But every year when you renew your registration, you're certifying that the information on it is accurate and true and correct, and you sign.
And if you replace it, it's your liability, but your insurance is void, null and void. I mean, in any legal issue, if you hit somebody, you.
Let me suggest the following, because I think that we're not at a point where we want to advise. There's obviously pros and cons, yings and yangs. I'm going to call the question, table this, and I'm going to work with Mark Walter to my right, and have Rich Roberts weigh in on what the ordinance says and what are we or should we be capable of doing, and come back with some suggestions in terms of who, what, when, and where, if we choose to do this. May I?
But with what Mike's initial findings have been with these couple of boats, jet boats, whatever, hand that over, this is what we're finding, right? Not just a discussion, the facts.
Yeah, I mean, we can include an example. There's even a difference of opinion of the example, and I just don't want to personalize this or get into it right now. And I can discuss that offline with Mike.
But
Frank,
I'm just gonna ask if you can add, I think that's a great suggestion. Come back to us, so sort of frame it a little bit.
Yeah.
I'd like to know what the potential sanction is. So
sanction of,
sanction, in other words, if you bring this to the state saying, if you're calling the questions, state saying this is a fraudulent, we suspect there's a mismatch between what the engine says and what the registration says. What's the potential?
So that would be, you bring it to the Department of Motor Vehicle Inspectors. They would look into it, compare the documents and compare the evidence. And if there is probable cause based on a fraudulent act, they will apply for an arrest warrant and get that warrant served, and the person will have their day in court to answer.
So that action seems to be a turn. So
Well, that's usually the case. Okay, but that's why most folks try and, make sure that the registration and state documents are accurate.
oh, okay. I'm going to allow 3 more comments and then I'm going to call the question.
So just to add to that, if you just change the number on the horsepower on the registration itself, the paper registration, it's a $250 fine. If you have purposely told the state it was a 130 instead it was really a $150, that's a $2,000 fine.
So there's monetary as well as perhaps additional penalties.
That all goes.
Go
with
sit
it.
down and circle crouch, mommy will be there in a minute.
Uh,
Sorry.
Mute yourself, Christina. Mute yourself, Christina. Bob, then Jim, and then
One
let's,
more thing to start with, about 15 years ago, we saw jet ski that. My mind was obviously of course.
Christine,
I suspected it was open war. I did some investigative investigation, found it was more. Turned it over to the state police. State police investigated and it turned out that the dealer was the one that falsified registration. You buy like a car, the boat dealers can register your boat. So the story was that the owner went in and said, "Oh, I really like this jet ski, but I can't buy it because they won't put a hose on my leg." I said, "Don't worry, we'll give me the registration." So that boat dealer is no longer. But just saying, the process was we went from Marine Patrol to Board of Selectmen to the state trooper.
all right. Good to know. One final comment. Look, Jim, I'll come back to you. Christina, you have your hand up? I haven't heard from you yet.
I had a question that might be naive. Are private citizens allowed to be looking into the registration number and in doing these kinds of investigations, or what is the legal aspect of that?
I think that has to be put to Helen Sage and Rich Roberts, who is the town attorney.
Okay.
The Marine Patrol work with state.
Well, the Marine Patrol.
Well,
is
other than Marine Patrol, because I.
LMAT,
Mhm.
or, yes, the Marine Patrol is definitely different. Yes.
Yes.
That was one of the questions.
Thanks, Christina. Jim, final comment.
We do what you're saying, postponements. What are they doing now?
Well, they're collecting all the information on the applicant or the registration, the launch to get on the lake, and they're doing nothing with the ESA at this
So
moment.
they're following what the registration.
Following the protocol.
So really, the only decision is,
Yeah.
do we investigate people that we don't believe? That's really the only.
There you go.
One of the
One final comment.
Would it be possible, like next year, to be informed of homeowner or boat owner that they need to provide proof one way or another of the engine, on the engine?
Not our part, or selectmen.
Well, yeah. They,
You said we. No, not our part, not our job to do this.
Well,
would be informed the board of selectmen to ask
we
for.
advise. Okay. And it's a good point. If we get to that point, yeah, what do we do? Or is there an adjustment that needs to be made within the ordinance, or do we have to change an ordinance? That's a whole nother kettle of fishes.
And that boat dealership is out of business now, and they got in a lot of trouble because they were almost advertised.
For obvious reasons.
If you live in Columbia Lake, come to me and I'll get you whatever boat you want.
Okay.
So.
Well, let's close this.
I'm just talking about the process.
Let's close this session. We will come back next month related to it, and I'll work with Mark and Rich Roberts and see what, as well as the Marine Patrol, and see what's potentially possible or not. So as Frank said, let's frame this. Let me move on. Refilling the lake. We know the short-term issues that we face. Now with the hot sun, we're even facing worse with evaporation. Christina mentioned today, someone launched a boat, hit the bottom of the lake. So it's happening even after launch. Where I measured it the other day, it's 30 inches still. So we haven't seen a change in terms of increase. And likely with the evaporation, we'll probably start to see decrease. I think the short term has been addressed. And when we go in executive session, I may come back to it. There are longer term challenges. Sharon posed the question in audience of citizens. Steve Everett and Mark Walter have posted a question. How can we avoid this? So that, are there changes that need to be made? Now, we just finalized after 2 years, the dam control water level policy, and I have a couple of thoughts related to that I'll just throw out up for discussion. But thought number one is, do we have to be more aggressive in air to filling the lake for the sake of all town residents versus some docks that could or may be impacted? Thought number one. Thought number two, are there protection devices? I think, Greg, you might have brought this up before, that we should adjust the dam control policy or educate those who have structures on the lake that are their own personal property. And in a quick research, there are a couple actually of what are called ice protectors and ice ramps over in Lake George, one lake that I grew up on or near in upstate New York. Gentleman has a business now where he literally is placing sheets of aluminum on the side of the dock where the ice always was wiping out docks, and that ice goes right off the sheet onto the dock and right off the dock. Potential. So should we be adjusting our dam control policy or educating and allowing on the lake ice protection of some sort? So a couple of thoughts to throw out, but first and foremost, I think we need to probably cut to the chase and say we'll need a subcommittee on this, but I'd like to hear input from folks first in terms of how to best approach.
I did some research, Mary, and I was told by one of our current residents about this, and I was not aware of it, that a lot of the lakes up north have a requirement in their ordinances that people must, if they're putting in a new dock, must have a removable dock. They must. If it's an old dock, they put it in their ordinance. If you're going to rebuild that dock, it is at your own risk and your own expense. And it cannot be brought back to anyone. And it cannot change what the management of the lake does for lowering their lakes. I thought that was excellent, and I looked at it, and it's Lake Winnipesaukee. Campbellwood actually has one too in their ordinances about removable docks. So if we went forward and did a referendum, it would be my suggestion to our ordinances saying that any new docks going in need to go in as removable docks. And make it very clear to people that this is your own risk. I mean, we've been doing that for the last 40, 50 years on the lake anyway. So why not make it a substantial ordinance that we can go forward and nobody has an issue if they're in a danger zone? Yeah.
There's a recommendation that's on the table. I'm sorry, Sharon, audience of citizens is typically you here for that, but you don't participate in the LMAP discussion. All out once.
All right, well, thank you, Mary. Again, the reason I'm here is, as I know you all know, there are a lot of rumors going around about what happened. And I know that it has been said that normal procedures were followed. Well, something was different this year to leave us the way we are now. Chip Schifrin has said that when he was in charge of the gate, he would open and close it maybe as many as 4 times a day when there was a problem with ice. So again, one of the rumors that's going around is, since the town has taken it over, whoever opened up the dam on Friday didn't come back and close it until Monday. This is something I think needs to be addressed. And that's why I'm here.
So Sharon, are you, this is a little bit different. Are you asking to address misinformation?
No, what I'm asking is what happened. this year that made this year what it is? That's what I'm asking.
I'm gonna table that for now. Sharon, you do, now, you're addressing the chairperson only. We addressed this at LMAC last month. I sent you an email with exactly what happened. And if it's the same thing that happened in 2012, and we have data from Phyllis and CLA president in 2012 that it was worse. We were 23 inches below baseline water level. We have data from 2015. We were below baseline water level until July. It happens because of a Mother Nature changed the number of inches of rain. And I'm going to pause or end it there. Okay. We're here to say, how do we prevent that knowing there is climate change? I have a chart of precipitation from 1990 to 2026 telling you how many inches, and the low levels in 2012 and 2015 speak for themselves. We still need the data for 2026 before we can complete this chart. So I'm with you. Nobody wants this. With you with the frustration. David Vanderbilt's here. I'll let him make one comment. But David, at LMAC the last time you said we managed the dam as we have since probably what, 1990?
Last 40 years they've been doing it this way, and to just make it short, we didn't get enough rain. That's why we got full. That's why we weren't full in those other years. And I think on March 15th we were at -4.5. That's right on line with what we've always been. What? March 15th or so, -4.5.
Where were we?
4.3. 4.3.
So we were even higher. By the end of March, we were at -3.
We just did not get the rain.
Well on our way to filling this.
Someone might know how much we're behind, but I think it's at least 6 inches, 6 or 8 inches behind half.
Okay, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole too long.
But the difference is, and most of those years, it was very cold winters.
Correct.
Now, we had a cold winter early on, and then we had a very, very mild.
Correct.
You know what I mean? From early March.
Correct.
We didn't even hit freezing.
Correct.
You know what I mean? And we shouldn't have opened it, with our own records. We had over 5.5 inches of rain in that week in the middle of March. You know what I mean? Knowing that we only had 50% coverage, and that's a perspective thing. You know what I mean? And that's a very difficult thing to understand, to guess at how much ice is on the lake.
I drove on the lake for days.
What's that?
Like,
That is very difficult work. I'm not questioning that. All I'm saying is that we need to dive into that because there was plenty of water. It just came very quick. There was a certain amount of ice on the water.
And thickness.
Well, 2 inches. 2 inches.
Or
those
greater.
2 inches were gone. The entire amount of ice left during that 1 week when we had.
That's cool. By March 18th, it was gone.
Yeah, yes, you know what I mean? So, and the forecast, like I said, we had 60, 70 degree days in that week, and beyond that, it never got below freezing again. So
your recommendation is?
Right. My recommendation is, I know historically, you know what I mean? We were never at 4.5 inches, -4.5 feet. You know what I mean? And in the middle of March, we were bringing it up to -3.5. And it was only, we decided to make some adjustments to the actual plan. And right or wrong, you know what I mean? This was, the unfortunate year when we tweaked it, you know what I mean? But, I don't know why we changed it from the -3.5. I never got an answer for that. You know what I mean? Because we used to always, that's what we used to do it.
I have a chart. I don't have it with me, Jim. I'm happy to provide it to you.
We have
You have 1 year. I have every dam control policy in a table. We did not change or adjust from minus
Well,
3.6?
actually, we voted on it a couple of months ago. We went from -3.5 to 4. Remember? Henry was driving that conversation.
I don't recall.
And it was a vote, and we made a recommendation to the selectmen to actually open the gate.
But I think what I'm hearing you say is, we need to err to
Yeah, actually.
fill this lake.
Oh, caveat if there's no ice. No, that's.
Say again,
We always knew, we've always had anywhere from 3 to 6 docks that got damaged, almost every year. On the cold years when we had, because I mean, there were years we had 2.5, 3 feet of ice. You know that.
so
Right,
Jim,
exactly.
your recommendation is
What I'm
what?
saying is, that what I think we need to delve into this year's specific data, because that can help us
Correct.
understand, you know what I mean, early fall, rainfall. Because anything after, anything after 4/1, forget it. That water never even gets to it's all absorbed by the trees, the bushes, a good part of it, you know what I mean?
I beg to differ.
Unless we get.
We have stormwater runoff averaging 4 to 5 inches, typically
Stormwater,
April,
don't-
May, and June. Stormwater runoff. You're right.
So all I'm saying is that I think we need to dive into this and just look at making the tweaks that I think we need. You know what I mean? The board might not think it eventually, but we need to at least present it and go through.
Any other comments?
Thank you for your time and thank you for your good works. Good night.
And then,
Thank you, Sharon.
so, I don't remember 30 or 40 years ago that we used to fiddle with the dam the way we fiddle with the dam now. In fact, I have a picture and I gotta dig it up so I can bring it here to show you guys. Of not the winter situation, but in the summer, the water halfway up our lawn. Because nobody fiddled with the dam. After they started.
So Muffy, you're,
Yeah, so my suggestion, just to plant the idea for further discussion later on. I think the drawdown's important for a number of reasons. We still do the drawdown and then we just leave it. And it does what it does. It comes up as it comes up. We've had years when the lake was full in March.
Yeah.
And you know what, if we got ice on the lake and it damages docks, it damages docks, but it's the only way I think that we can be sure of having full lake come June or May or whenever we want to start.
We can't dump it. March.
Well, we can't rely on rainfall. That's just what killed us this year was rainfall.
March was the only time we had rain.
A lot of rain in March, almost 6 inches.
None in April, none in May. And so
Nope.
far, there's been, I mean, when you look at the weather maps of the country, there's massive storms. So they all go that way or that way.
I'll go around it.
So that would be, I just want to plant that because I future discussion.
good. Right.
Okay, so I chop this up into 3 pieces, right? Why are we using water? Weeds, right? Help with weed control.
Why a drawdown?
Water problem. If you look at the weeds, how long does the bottom lake that need to be exposed for killing what we're trying to kill? Or prevent what we're trying to track. So that is, it needs a hard freeze for 3 weeks or something like that. If you get some data on that.
I'm
Then
sure TRC for W&B can help us.
the second would be repairing structures, walls.
Ah,
How
yeah.
high does the water need to be for the lowest person to be able to and still repair their wall or down?
Just
Bring it up a couple of feet in February, that's kind of where I'm going.
Actually, we have that data.
And then the third is the ice, right? Ice control, which is Mother Nature, of course. But if we can get a handle on the things we're trying to solve, whereas how long do we need to keep the water low for the weeds? How long do we need what's the level of height? Like, if we can get a good indication now with it so low, it's up on somebody's walls and others, it's just touching it.
And or docks. Docks are 20, because we have to construct docks.
Right,
So we have to be 20 feet out.
yeah,
Yeah.
so, but we can also, tell, in the fall, tell people who are doing permits from the docks or something, that you only have till this
Yeah.
window now.
Yeah.
To do it, and then to Phyllis's point, we strongly recommend, but it's your own risk, a cantilever type, or, something like that, so we gotta put them all together.
Okay.
And that might help us say,
Well-
okay, hey, based on these facts, we told people they fix their docks and their retaining walls by end of February, max, because we're gonna start filling the lake and running out of ice.
Let's take it.
I mean, Mary, you did some great work on noting, how many docks and what docks are gonna get damaged at -3, -4, -5.
Yeah.
-5 all up. But I
But we
mean,
can repeat it.
but the point is, we could go to those people and say, look,
Yeah.
this is gonna be an issue in the future years. And I think we should make that known and say, look, you have an opportunity to change your dock, your last 10 feet to floating. You know what I mean? The town would support that, because that way you would never have any future damage, that would happen. If they say, I'm not gonna do that, then we say, that's fine too, but understand it's at your own risk. Because the goal here is to get profitable.
And we did put a risk warning statement.
I know.
And for the first time, the CLA Ripples did suggest different dock structures if you're going to replace your dock. So what you're saying is build on that education.
Right,
Yeah.
right. But like, we know the people that are at risk.
Well, yes, we think we do. And then I never knew this until Mark Pullman called me. And Mark Pullman has been someone who has been advising me throughout this whole winter, because he was kind of new as the former dam keeper. And he said in the late 1990s, I forget exactly when, there was a nor'easter. And typically you think it's going to hit those docks that are going down towards Route 87 or coming out of the dam. I think Mazos was and Scalise's and David Holcroft, Holcroft. But a nor'easter hit and took out Anderson's on Sunny Slope, Chip Chifrin's, Bob Powell's, or former, the one next to it, Armstrong Lights. He said something to me about his dock being totally damaged, and it went right down up Tony from Sunny Slope.
Those are,
So, yeah.
but I mean, I'm talking about the normal,
Exactly.
the typical years where we're
Exactly.
trying to bring it up and there's a lot of ice.
And I appreciate that.
That's all.
Yeah, the
Any
goal
other
is to
thoughts,
bring it up
Mike?
quicker.
Yeah, when you say you know whose dock gets damaged, we know who put in permits to fix the dock. But I'll guarantee you, there's a lot of docks that got damaged that they just fixed.
Well, we'll know it once we start bringing it up earlier, because they'll come and bitch us.
We are aware of a couple.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are aware of a couple. Yeah, okay. So we're not gonna have a total solution tonight.
No.
I think what is being suggested is legitimately has to be researched, and we have to come back with, here's where we're at, here's what we're recommending. And I would like to ask for not just the DM subcommittee, which is Mike, myself, and Henry, but Jim, I'd love to have you on that committee because you have the historical data too. So if we could take this to the subcommittee, review this, suggestions you made already, Greg, if you're interested, W&B could be involved. We do have some data on docks and when the water reaches them, which we can always build on this year. I just love to wander around the lake when it goes down.
I'll be happy.
Thank you, Jim.
We can't be official, just let them know. Non-official.
I think for sure.
Okay.
So Jim joins the subcommittee.
One of the reasons to do the drawdown, and please consider this when you're subcommittee, thinks about the policy going forward, is protecting the dam. It's easy for me to say drop it down 5 feet and then just let it go, but if there were to be an ice at a high level, I think it probably would do a lot of damage to the dam, so that needs to be part of it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
There's a reason that we
Yeah.
play with it. And to be honest with you, the middle of February every year, that's when all the discussions start. That's when we say, let's shut the dam, the ice isn't that, whatever, didn't matter. But that's when we really start focusing. Middle of February. But to your point about how we breathe down, we're very fortunate. There's not another lake, I don't believe, in the state that can draw down 6 feet. And if we stop doing that, we lose that. And then we'll never be able to do it again. So we don't ever want to stop that because it does keep, barring the crazy weeds that are here right now. I mean, there hasn't been weeds in this lake for many, many years.
Well, we have dock based.
So we hate to give that up.
Except
At least my opinion is, we don't want to give that up, but bring it. It's all our control. When it wasn't, it was not. No, I just want to just how quick we bring it up to do the things that reason why we bring it. Right. If we can get rid of the weeds quick and docks fix quicker, that gives us the opportunity, depending on ice, to raise it up early. Right. That's my world. No, I'm happy.
All good discussion. We'll take it to the subcommittee. Jim will add you to this dam control policy recommendations or revisions. And we move on. New business. Some of this may come from if we change a dam control policy, we may be updating standard guidelines for Drainage Commission for the construction and maintenance of structures on shoreline. Before we get to a permit review, that may address this. Are we at a point, and I looked at briefly, and I did not read the whole thing, what we have now, which is pretty dang good, but we're missing a few areas. We're missing emergency repairs, and how do we go about and get permits? When you had the dam issue or the ice issue and you needed your dock fixed ASAP as the water was coming up, as well as Dave Holcroft, who I think got a verbal commitment finally, we went right to Steve Everett and just had him bless it. Is that what should be happening with emergency repairs? Should we wait a month, come to LMAC, and then LMAC goes to BOS, or should we be rewriting our policy to say, hey, we had an emergency repair at Camp Astawamma that they needed to do right away. We had one that you're bringing up tonight that probably should have been done right away if that dock was going to be used. They delayed for 3 or 4 weeks. So I don't have any recommendations. I don't know if any of you have reviewed it, but the other thing that came up was not only permit.
Sorry, there is a clause.
What does it say?
Says notwithstanding the foregoing provisions, historical emergency repairs to any dock, waterfront, covering, waterfront, flood, craft, or mooring may be made with such IWWC approval as may be needed prior to submission of an application covering the repairs, provided that such an application is made promptly after the completion of the repairs. Subsequent review and approval of such application will be based on inspection for compliance with these regulations.
But that goes to wetland, not to LMAC for Steve Everett.
We don't even. So
we don't need to be involved.
Emergency repair is not found to be in compliance with these regulations will be required to be corrected whether the remediated and supported self-control.
My bad.
So they could fix it. They could fix it themselves and then make the application. Justify it.
But to IWWC, not to LMAC. I was on a.
That's what this says.
Then we're going. Well, the second one will come up in a permit review if we need to look at these guidelines, and that's related to floaties or rafts, etc. And I'm going to hold until we have that discussion.
Can I ask a quick question? Last meeting was
they wouldn't, the company putting in their dock would only do it with the water in the lake. And, you know what I mean, when you're putting in like the temporary docks that you're talking about, that may be the only time you're able to put in those type of.
Well, actually, thank you,
I
David.
just found-
Thank you. We have revisited that with the owner and they are actually putting it in the drawdown. Is that not right? But it's a great bridge.
You know what I mean? I mean, there's some. I had never thought of that.
Yeah. Well, it didn't in this case, but yeah, I thank you for that. It's a great bridge to get to permit review. Because Mike, think you have 2 or 3 that require our review.
Yeah, true. Let me do Henry's first. So, Henry submitted, Henry Back, 41 Sleepy Hollow Road, submitted a permit. He has, 3 dock boards that have dry rot and need to be replaced to prevent someone from breaking through. The dry rotted boards and the pressure treated replacements are shown in pictures. He sent pictures with, the replacements that he's going to do. Permission to proceed as soon as possible is requested. And, Mary, Mark, and Steve Everett met this afternoon, I believe.
This morning.
And, they approved that action, so, wrote up a letter to the OE telling them that we, did an administrative approval for that.
The pictures were.
This is the issue that Henry raised at the last meeting.
Correct. And he did apply for the permit and inadvertently the permit was delayed for 3 weeks. So now our motion is to accept the administrative approval of the permit committee for the emergency repair, which is interesting because it's not in our guidelines, but we can go back and revisit that. Jimmy, you second? Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Abstained. Thank you. Michael, you have a second one on
So I'm going to go ahead and make a motion on that.
Please do.
We make a motion to advise the Board of Selectmen to approve a permit application to place a jet ski lift, which is 6 feet in length and 5 feet 6 inches wide, weighs 191 pounds, at 166 Route 87 with the following conditions. No construction of the lift will take place on or above Columbia Lake. The lift will be placed on the lake bed in its entirety, completely installed, or completely assembled. The lift will be placed abutting but not connected to the dock. The lift will not be placed any closer than 8 feet from the end of the dock to conform to the extended property line. Liability for installation, construction, maintenance, and use of the structure governed by the Town of Columbia's standard guidelines remains at all times with the applicant and the landowner.
We have a motion made by the permit committee to allow a freestanding aluminum boat lift to be put on the dock. Cut to the chase. Is there a second for that motion?
I have a question.
Is there a second first? And then we'll get to discussion. Muffy has seconded that motion. Thank you. I got that, Phil.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Don't they have a raft in the morning?
He is giving up,
He is giving up this morning.
giving up the water.
Yes,
Okay.
it should be part of the motion that he will give up the morning. Okay. Further discussion?
And this otherwise meets the 25-foot.
Yeah, that's
why it's being held back.
Mike
that's
was
why
there.
it's being held back 8 foot.
Yes.
I have,
We have the
a
scheme.
drawing that shows, if I measured out, we measured out straight across, there was plenty of room. I thought it could go 2 feet. So when I swung that 15 feet out this way, the other property line goes like that.
Yeah.
And so it has to be like that. So he's got to be 8 foot back. It's a 24-foot dock. So you can go back 8 feet. The lift is 6 foot long. He'll have 10 feet before he has the steps. That's for the steps.
So I supported Mike on a site visit, and Jim, I know that you were unable to. And during our discussion with the gentleman, Eric, he did say that this is a temporary placement. It's just placing the whole thing on the lake because he is going to put in the floating dock structure when the lake drawdown happens. So just FYI.
So, yeah, so that lift that he was talking about, the floating one,
Correct.
is 14 feet long.
Well,
And he would still have to be back 8
8
feet
feet.
from the end of the dock. That would only leave him 2 feet in front of the steps.
This is
How
for,
does the access?
that
So,
that will come in his permit, then, because he has to apply for a permit.
so that will fit, except it's gonna block the steps.
Well, he's gonna have to deal with that.
He knows that, yeah.
Well,
We didn't talk about that.
you may want to share that with him if he chooses that route. He's saying he's going to do that, but if he needs a permit, obviously. Great. We have a motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Oh.
This is going to sit on the
Lake
lake.
On the lake.
That's feet.
It's got 4 feet.
Yes.
They adjust the feet to level it, that's all.
Correct. It's fully constructed. So. Call the question?
Yes, if it was to- and this is for a permanent approval, it's not for.
Actually, he's talking about taking it out next year and putting in a floating dock. A floating
Approval.
lift.
Yeah, but if he chooses to leave it in, it's permanent. If he chooses.
Yeah, you could leave that in.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is not really a temporary approval, it's an approval. If you want to change it, that's up to him.
Sure. Sure. And that's his intent. He may change his mind. May like it. So call the question. Are we ready for a vote? All in favor? Any opposed? Abstain. Okay, thank you. Mike, thank you. Let me bring up a final one. It's not actually a permit.
Judy has her hand raised.
Judy, do you have a question?
Have your hand raised?
That's us.
Sorry, I'm like.
Let's do that. Let's do it. I think this is in your package. Mark Young, our town administrator. Over the weekend, John Lynch, who is a neighbor who lives up the street on Erdoney Road, attempted to launch his rowboat with a motor. And he had two issues. Issue number one was a town regulation. And that was, he is not a resident of Columbia, Connecticut. He is using his mother's seasonal home, and he could not prove that it was his mother's seasonal home, even though he went back and tried and provide some sort of paperwork, will or trust or something. Issue number two was he did not have his boat safety certification, which is a state regulation that you must carry it with you at all times and it has to be on you. Is that correct, Jeff? So he was denied access. He was not the happiest camper in the world. I, as a neighbor, excuse me, Marine Patrol. Yes. So we have a letter in front of us stating that John and his family, including his son-in-law, John Kerr, have spent the summers at Columbia, blah, 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 since 1992. They are and will be residents leasing the lakefront during the months of May through October. They will be continuous for 30 or more days. They will moor their motorized boat at 46 Erdoney, and they do so with my permission as the owner. I would like to suggest a motion to accept and advise the town administrator that we accept this letter from Francis Lynch, his 89-year-old mother, and that we do with the proviso that he does have to provide boat safety certification. That the motion be we approve, allow we allow him to launch, assuming he can meet the state regulation of the boat certification. Now, his boat certification is shrink wrapped in his motorboat that he can't launch. If he doesn't want to take the shrink wrap off because it's going to cost to put shrink wrap back on, fine. The Department of Motor Vehicles has 3 ways that you can get a copy of your certification. So we can send him that to help him. Right.
Go online and just.
Yeah, you can go online, you can email, or you can show up in person at the depot. Correct.
So I don't think we need to put it in motion.
Well, it doesn't have to be a motion, but we can advise.
Our problem is saying he has to do it.
Of course. These zippers, yeah.
Say again?
It makes zippers to go on the shrink wrap, you can get into your boat.
Well, maybe off the record, we can advise him. The motion is that we approve that he will be a qualified non-resident, whatever that term is, and that we will allow him to launch his motorboat. And then as education,
It's all the other inspections.
all right, providing he meets all the inspections. Does that work?
Just have the mother draw up a lease for the dates and times, and that negates.
Well,
this
now
whole-
our
this whole
procedure is this letter. We've already approved 2 other residents this way. That's the procedure we're using. So,
And this is why I said not to open this up, because you open Pandora's box and you set a precedent. So
Right.
it just circumvents the actual ordinance that is written based on the spirit of the law. So
how does that, I'm missing.
you want to establish a qualified non-resident, and in the ordinance, it pretty much spells it out.
But
Okay,
this, this letter is doing that.
This letter isn't saying
He's leasing
dates
his
and
lakefront
time,
home.
it's not
May through October.
May, all right, May through October. So is he staying there the entire time? I mean, because originally,
4 days.
originally it was 30 days total throughout the entire summer. And
Minimum 30 days.
No, it was a minimum, and it had to be
there was a
4
letter
weeks.
that you guys approved that he said that he was gonna be here for a total of 30 days for the summer, but not consecutive. And I found where a qualified non-resident must be here for minimum 30 days consecutive. And that letter still got approved.
And this is what we're seeing. They will be continuous. I'm not going to be parked in front of his house to see if he's there every day. His car has been there often, and his wife. So
Also let if you rent your house, they can.
it has to be, I think,
No.
30 days.
30 days.
Yeah, has to be. So motion on the table. Second. Bob, thank you. Any further discussion? It's right, it's, yeah, it's,
They're not launching that. He's trying to launch,
he's trying to launch his fishing boats.
but his voting certificate.
But you're right.
Yeah.
No, the bow rider is not, he's not launching.
His certificate is in the code, that's all right.
Okay. We can off the motion, advise him and be nice and say, you might want to think about this. Go to the DMV. So. Where are we? All in favor? Aye. Abstain? Or opposed? One opposed? Jeff, Mike,
Abstain.
abstain. Thank you. We move on. Okay. I think that completes all of our permit review. TRs or town updates, we will do an executive session. And Muffy, is there anything very quickly?
Very quickly, on watershed management plan, we had a time setback. It took quite a long time to finalize the contract between TRC and Paul Nielsen's new company. TRC is subcontract for the rest of the 2026 fiscal year work. And that took a long time to get completed, get signed, so Carl wasn't able to work on this, wrote to us And a week or so ago, and I thought was gonna try to get something to us before this meeting, and I haven't heard from him, so we had originally had a plan to finalize this update by the end of June. And based on the conversation we had with him, we moved it to September 30th. But even that might be aggressive, given that no one here has even seen, we haven't even seen the update yet. He's very happy, he told me what he's got, but we haven't seen it. And then once we see it and review it and comment on it, there's a whole bunch of other people in town that need to review it or be consulted on it. Conservation Commission, wetlands, blah, 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 so September 30th maybe.
I'll go back and look at my notes, but you're saying September 30th. I thought it was January of 2027 for the whole enchilada to be reviewed. But I'll go back and look at the notes.
Well, that's.
But keeping
that's
Carl,
more realistic.
keeping Carl on that date.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is fine.
Anyway, stay tuned. We have a draft, which I think will be soonish. And I will look at it and we'll make our comments and we'll push it out to all of you.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. That concludes the public portion of our LMAC meeting. I'd like a motion to close the public portion and to proceed to executive session. Bob, thank you for the motion. Second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Michael.
This executive session is an employee, that's what that has to be. What's it about?
Okay.